Our text today comes from 2 Corinthians. So turn there, 2 Corinthians chapter 8, beginning with verse 7. Now this is in the context of Paul recognizing how generous people have been to the churches in Macedonia, and that to the churches in Jerusalem, and that the churches in Macedonia, especially even out of their poverty, have given graciously to the church in Jerusalem. So hear these words as Paul continues. But just as you excel in everything, in faith, in speech, in knowledge, in complete earnestness, in your love for us, see also that you excel in this grace of giving. I'm not commanding you, but I want to test the sincerity of your love by comparing it with the earnestness of others. For you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, and that though he was rich, for your sake he became poor, so that you, through his poverty, might become rich. And here's my advice about what is best for you in this matter. Last year you were first not only to give, but also to have the desire to do so. Now, finish the work, so that your eager willingness to do it may be matched by your completion of it according to your means. For if the willingness is there, the gift is acceptable according to what one has, not according to what one does not have. Our desire is not that others might be relieved while you are hard pressed, but that there might be equality. At the present time, your penalty will supply what they need, so that in turn their plenty will also supply what you need. Then there will be equality, as it is written, the one who gathered much did not have too much, and the one who gathered little did not have too little. Brothers and sisters, the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Let us pray. Holy God, we just want to thank you and praise you for the chance to meditate upon your word and to celebrate who you are and to ask you, God, show us how to give. Show us how to live. Show us how to recognize the abundance that you give us and to recognize that you call us to be faithful in all things, not just in some things, but in all things. Bless us, Lord. Use us in Jesus' name. Amen. It seems there was a terrible plane crash right over the sea, and 2 men survived the plane crash, and off in the distance while they're treading water they could see an island, and so they made us swim for it. They swam for the island, and when they finally got there, after they got rested up a little bit, one of the men jumped on his feet and he said, "We've got to survive here." So he got busy and he started pulling together limbs and trying to build a fire and looking for food and looking for fresh water, all those things. He was working and working. Meanwhile, the other guy just sort of sat on the beach and relaxed and enjoyed the sun and the surf. The first guy said to him, "Hey man, don't you care if we die or not? We've got to work in order to survive." And the man said, "Well, you know, I'm not too worried because I'm a millionaire." "Yeah," said the guy, "but all your money's not going to do you any good out here." And the millionaire said, "Well, I go to church and I'm a pretty faithful tither, so you better believe that my preacher will do everything under the sun to find me, call the Coast Guard, send out the warrant. He'll make sure that I am found." One more story. One preacher was trying to raise money for a special project in the church, and so one Sunday morning he felt especially inspired, and so he said, "Okay, here's what we're going to do. We have a need today, and the person who gives the greatest gift will get to choose 3 hymns today that we use in worship." And so they took up the offering, and the preacher couldn't help but notice when the baskets came back up, there was a $1,000 bill laying right on top. And the preacher got all excited and he said, "You know, I don't like to embarrass people, but I have to know, who is it that was so generous? This meets all of our needs. Who is it that was so generous that gave the $1,000 bill?" And this little old lady in the back of the row raised her hand. And the preacher said, "Well, would you come on forward?" And the little lady got up from her seat in the back and she shuffled forward and she shuffled forward. And the preacher said, "Okay, now you need to pick out your hymns." And so she got a little blushful and she looked up and she went, "I'll take him." Stewardship. Faithful faithfulness to God. How you doing? How you doing in your faithfulness to God? This is something that, honestly, I never have been a big preacher on stewardship, and so the finance committee has to give me the nudge every now and then. And I don't know why I don't particularly love preaching on this topic. I think it's because people think I'm trying to get you to raise my salary or something. It's not about me. And what I have realized over the years when I do preach about giving is that it's one of the greatest things that brings the greatest joy to God's people. And why wouldn't I want you to have the opportunity to give your very, very best to God? So this week, during Vacation Bible School, we had a really good illustration of people giving their gifts. We never know exactly how many children are going to walk through the door. The first night there were 18, I think. The next night there were 26. The first night we had just 2 classes because we didn't have enough kids to make up the 4 classes that we normally would have. And we ended up having 30 kids all together. And it didn't matter what the number was. What mattered was that every child that was there, and every child that was there had the opportunity to sing songs about faith and about Jesus. And every child that was there even got to have a snack that was related to the Bible story or the theme for the night. And every child got to sing, did I do the sing songs already? Play games that had to do with our theme. They even did Bible themes with the games and our crafts related to our faith, and certainly the Bible stories. And y'all know I'm all about bribery when it comes to getting kids to remember Bible study or Bible verses, and they learned 4 verses this week. Some of them weren't easy verses. And later in life, they may not even remember where they learned those verses, but those verses will stick close to their heart. Trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Lean not on your understanding was one of them. Obey the Lord your God and follow his command. That was another one. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Jesus said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. They learned all of that. Even little Riley. How old is Riley? 2? Really, 2?
2.5.
I thought she was almost 3 by now. 2.5-year-old Riley learned her Bible verses. Now, if 2.5-year-old Riley can get it and start learning her Bible verses, even though she thinks Jesus' last name is Price instead of Christ. If Riley can get that at 2.5 years old, how much more should you and I be able to get it? We had one little boy this week who visits with us. This was his 2nd summer with us. He lives in New York, but he comes to visit with his grandma in the summer. And she lives right down the street, so she brought him here. And one night he had sort of a spell, just a meltdown. And I was so proud of our team because I never once heard anybody say, that kid doesn't belong here. I was so proud of our team because instantly everybody jumped into the role of keeping this little boy safe and getting him to a place where he was comfortable. The gifts of God are something that we don't always know exactly which one we're going to need to use at the time that God gives it to us. But God reminds us over and over and over in Scripture that we have to be faithful with everything that we have. We talk about in our oaths as people join the church, which we're about to have a bunch of people join the church at the end of this month. One of the vows they will take is, will you support this church by your prayers, your presence, your gifts, your service, and your witness? How many of you are supporting your church through your prayers? How many of you are showing up to everything that you possibly can? How many of you are giving of your financial gifts and your gifts beyond finances? How many of you are using your time wisely? How many of you are giving witness to God's glory? I don't know about you, but I could improve in all those areas. I love, one of the greatest illustrations of giving, I think, comes from the Gospels. And it's as Jesus is giving the Sermon on the Plain, which some people mush together with the Sermon on the Mount. It follows after the Beatitudes. But this verse in chapter 6. Jesus is really talking about forgiveness, but I think this applies to gifts of every kind. Jesus says, give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaking together, running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure that you use, it will be measured unto you. In other words, so the scoop that you use in giving God is what the scoop is going to be that God gives back to you. Whew, I want God's scoop to be way bigger than mine, don't you? I want to show you what that looks like a little bit. So when I visited third world countries especially, market day is always fun to drive by. I'm a little nervous when you go through market day too, because there's people everywhere and people are trying to buy and sell, and it's just a little bit crazy. People bring things to the market, and there's buying and selling and trading. And one village that we were in, at the beginning of the day, we saw a man walking a cow, and at the end of the day, we saw half a cow on the ground, because evidently it was a good day to buy meat, fresh meat. But what they will do with their grain and with a lot of things that they have to sell is they'll roll out a thatched mat and they'll pour right on the ground whatever they have to sell. Now this is macaroni. I don't see too much macaroni being sold in Haiti, but I couldn't find enough rice. It might be rice, it might be beans, it might be grain, it might be sugar, it might be flour. But what you'll see happen is there's not a lot of packaging there at their markets. Now, there are some Americanized markets, and we always shop those and buy our coffee and vanilla to bring back from Haiti, but that's not where the Haitians shop. They shop on the street. So their measure might be something like this. So if you have someone who's just being a fair person, they might just give you a scoop. If you're paying for a scoop of macaroni, they might just do that right there. And that would be the measure that they would be given. Now, in God's economy, which is grace economics and not just economics, but in God's grace economics, God says, with the measure that is given from you, so you will receive. Not just a flat measure, but shake it. Press down so you can get so much more. And running over. Now, they don't have always bags. Sometimes people bring their own little satchels, but sometimes people will just roll up their skirt and it'll get poured right into their lap. Isn't that a powerful image of God's gift to us? That He would pour right into our laps. Not just enough, but pressed down, shaken, refilled, flowing, heaped up, running over is the measure that God gives to us. A lot of times when I talk about giving, people will say, but I don't have. We're struggling already. God, as the scripture we read today, doesn't ask you to give what you don't have. He asks you to give what you do have. So maybe for each of our households, it's a matter of management. How well are we managing the gracious plenty that God is pouring right into our laps? I mean, it's not like God saying, come and get it. Just come line up right here. Wait your turn. Wait till I call your number and you'll get your one scoop, just like everybody gets their one scoop. No, God is bringing it to us. God is bringing His goodness to us, and He's pouring it right into our laps. The gracious plenty that He has for us. With what measurement are you giving to God? Are you just giving enough to get by, or pulling out your leftovers and saying, well, everything else is done, I can give God my leftovers? Or is God first? I want to remind you of a couple ways, couple tools that we have in place. And summertime is always funny because people come and go a lot in the summer. How many of you are not? How many of you have a cell phone? Let's ask that. How many of you have a smartphone? How many of you are using the online giving? Oh, just a couple. I got to tell you, this is one of the greatest tools that our church adopted. Because now some people say it's important to me to set aside what I'm giving so that I know what I'm giving to God, and I set that aside first. But some people go, oh my gracious, it's so much easier because I know what I have left after God comes first. And I love that God's money has already been taken out of my paycheck before I get it. I love that God's money has already been taken out of Maurice's paycheck before we even know what we have to spend. It's just an easy thing. And guess what? If I'm not here one Sunday, I don't have to go, oh no, I got to double up this week. And even though it's the same amount of money, it's squished together to one time, it's kind of an ouch when you have to double up, isn't it? And so it's easy. If you're not here, your gift is already pulled out. Or you can just go, oh my goodness, I forgot to bring money today. You can scan your phone. You might forget money, but you ain't going to forget your phone. Ain't that the truth? Right? How many of you forget your wallet sometimes? I do every now and then. I don't worry so much about my wallet, but I do because I'm driving too, but yeah, don't want to get pulled over without a driver's license. Will you come help me if I do? Thank you. Okay, but I rarely ever leave home without my phone. So if you forgot your wallet, but you got your phone, you still have a way to give. So let me encourage everybody, whether you want to set that up as an ongoing thing, let me encourage everybody, at least scan it and get your online giving set up so when you decide you want to give that way, you can. There's also a couple of other tools. We have a program through Kroger that we're getting back money. I think we got a check from Kroger for $36 last week. Now, that might be for 6 months or something since we started that program, but that's $36 of free money just because you went online for 5 minutes and you shop at Kroger, which you're probably going to do anyway. How many of you shop Amazon? Have you signed up for Amazon Smile? Amazon Smile has a little icon, and they give a percentage of everything you buy on Amazon back to our church. It's free. It's free. We'll put some information together. Carla, help me remember. We'll put it in the bulletin again next Sunday, or we'll send it out on the email this week so that you have those gifts. But what measure is being given to you? Is it just oh, that looks like enough? Or is God really shaking it down? Pressing, filling it up again, and running over your cup? My cup is overflowing with God's goodness. May my cup of goodness back to God be overflowing as well. This morning as I was driving in, I thought, I pray in the car an awful lot. I'm going to have to, when I move into the parsonage, I'm going to have to find another way to spend my prayer time other than driving. Maybe I'll walk and pray. But I was praying in the car this morning, and I heard myself say, what can I do for you today, God? I went, whoa, that must be from you, God, because I never would have thought about that, because I'm always busy asking God for what I need or what I want, or people who are sick, or situations in the church. I'm always saying, God, please, God, please, God, please, God, please. What if we started out our day saying, God, good morning. What can I do for you today? Let the measure that I give to you be found faithful. Amen. Let us pray. Great God, thank you for your grace and your goodness toward us. It is exceedingly abundantly more than we could ever have imagined or thought to ask you for. You have blessed us. And you have asked us to give not of what we don't have, but what we do have. So today our prayer is this: what can we do for you, Lord? How can we be more fully faithful to you? We remember that on the night that Jesus was betrayed, he gave his very, very best to us. You have given your best, exceedingly abundantly more than we could ever have imagined. We never would have been able to figure out how to have life again after sin. But in Jesus Christ, you've made a way where there's no way. So make a way not only in us, but make a way through us. Make a way not only for us, but make a way all around us to be faithful in our discipleship, to use all the good gifts, to use the wisdom and the knowledge and the love and all the gifts that we have for your glory.